What are the three most important things in life? The first one, simplicity. Second one, simplicity. And of course, the third one, simplicity.
Here we are in the Adelaide Hills, and this house, it seems to be a simple, even modest home in the Australian bush, but it contains some of the radical ideas that have made Glenn Murcutt the closest thing to a truly Australian architect. Glenn Murcutt is this week's Talking Head. Glenn Murcutt, welcome to Talking Heads.
Pleasure.
Now, here we are, sitting just outside your brother's house in the Adelaide Hills, and it's just gone through this record heatwave. So how did it stand up?
Well, the University of Adelaide have shown that when the temperature's 42 outside, the temperature inside is 25 degrees. And you can open up the whole house at night time, let it cool down, and during the daytime, close down. We have dark walls, but we've shaded them at this time of the year, so the sunlight is keeping off the walls, whereas in wintertime the sunlight hits those walls and radiates the warmth. So it's not that complicated.
Now, I might be tempted to call this a style, but you'd object to that, wouldn't you?
Well, a style doesn't have any depth of principles behind it. A style, you can do this or do that or do something else. This has nothing to do with that. This is understanding where the orientation is. It's understanding where the cooling winds come from. It understands that you produce the bedroom at the eastern end, because by the time the sun's gone to the western end, it's heating up enormously. The bedroom cools down, and you get verandas on the south, you get verandas on the north, and so you design it so you've got your winter sun penetration and exclusion of your summer sun to the house. And you work this house, and you work most of my buildings like you sail a yacht. You have to work them so that you understand how to get the best out of the climate without having to air condition.
Now, I can see that style wasn't quite the word I should have used. If you agreed to take me on as your client, would I need millions of bucks?
No, first of all, I'd be taking you and your partner or any associated person with you.
The whole family, would you?
The whole family would need to be understood here, so it's not just you.
I suppose, but you're a famous architect. I'd be working with your underlings, wouldn't I?
No, I have no underlings. I'm a sole practitioner.
Well, I'd at least be talking to your secretary, wouldn't I?
No secretary. No secretary, no staff.
Well, what's your mobile phone number?
I don't have one. So I'm sorry, I can't. I'm difficult to get hold of. I know I'm very difficult to get hold of, but those who are really serious about wanting to get hold of me, whether they be here in Adelaide or Sydney or New York, they eventually know how to get hold of me. They're the people you need to know.
Let's find out where this odyssey of Glenn Murcutt began.
We grew up in the highlands of New Guinea on the upper Wattet River. The lower end of the highlands, a very wild place with huge grasslands of kunai grass, huge rainforests. We were the only family within about 15 kilometres of where we lived as Europeans. The rest of the people were Papua New Guineans, and they cared for us, they played with us, they taught us pidgin. So Pidgin English was my first language. And a gypsy moth would fly only probably 30 metres above the ground and throw out our mail and food as well. Christmas cakes, the lot, came by air. In those forests lived the Kukukuka people. And the Kukukukas were just below 1.5 metres in height. The kunai grass was 1.5 metres. And of course you'd see this little snake-like thing coming down through the grasses, and you knew that was trouble ahead. Terribly frightening time. And it gave me a sense of fear. All my childhood, the evening, the darkness, was when it would strike. And that fear lasted a long time. During 1942, we had to get out of New Guinea very fast. And the Japanese had arrived. When I arrived in Sydney, of course, totally different environment. We came from lush environment, racing water, all black people, to this monoculture of white people, where the postman came, not by air, but by foot, with a bag over his shoulder, blowing a whistle. My parents thought that they wouldn't send me to school until I could speak English. So I started school when I was about 8. I grew up in a family of 5 siblings. We had 7 pianos in the house, and in the mornings and evenings, the noise was terrible, and to concentrate was very hard. I found silence by leaving the house, and I had set up in the bush a place where I could sit and draw and think quietly. That was my real reclusive place. From about the age of 13, my father took me on the hillside of Clontarf and examined the Angophora costatas. At the top of the hill, we could see the nutrients were far less, the trees were smaller, the leaf structure was smaller. As we went down the hillside, the structure was greater, trees were larger, nutrients were higher. And it's been with me for the rest of my life, the understanding of place, and it has guided me in the design of my architecture. I set about designing my own aeroplanes. I learnt how air moved and why a wing gave lift. We built a boat together, a racing skiff. It was a great experience because sailing teaches you about wind, it teaches you about water and how you can capitalise on tides, how you can capitalise on wind pressure increases, all those things. So the junction of flight and boats has stood with me all my life. As my father was bringing in architectural forums, he insisted that I read the principles underlying the designs of many works. And from the time I was 15 onwards, I decided I wanted to become an architect.